My name is Nguyen. I'm a proud LGBT plus admin. First of all, I started teaching 12 years ago, and I love to be a teacher. So becoming an admin was never my go-to or my goal. But I believe in the power of mentorship. That was a big moment for me when someone recognized my talent beyond the classroom and said, "Hey, Tree, go for it. Pursue this route as an instructional leader in a bigger capacity." So I think from that from that moment on, the power of mentorship really took an impact on my um, career development, but also how perceive now others, right? Building mentorship in my capacity for my teachers and my team. Um, I would say that a big part of my growth is that the continuation of taking risks, regardless of the barriers that I go through. I don't see any intentional barriers that are in my line of sight, but I do see challenges along the way, whether it's a big system, state challenges, or city challenges, or local school site challenges. But my big takeaway is that maintain the positive intention in my practice, be very intentional in the care aspect of with my team, and kind of model what I think that it's good for kids, but also effective for community lens. Um, I think a big part of my gratitude to the people that I work with is that we learn from each other, and we acknowledge the growth in each other. And I hope that if any kids see in our school is that we work as a team well, and that we celebrate success, but also overcome struggle with going back to what's we believe is best for kids. So I think combination of in my journey of power, combination of mentorship, um, collective investment in the aspect of care, and continued celebrate success is a big um, framework of where I am today. A big challenge for I think LGBTQ is still kind of fully being themselves in the school setting, in the work setting. Living in California, I love it. I appreciate the liberal sense of acceptance. It's given, it's given. But to this very day, I'm still very hesitant to kind of open each other with the parents. If someone asks, I will be honest and claim that, but it's not something that I wear publicly. But I think one challenge that I have with some of our parents is that um, whenever we go through for example, a discipline conversation where there's not an agreement on how the outcome of what my consequences to the child is, um, I hear the implicit bias such as, well, you're not a parent. You know, I don't see you as a parent. So, as a parent, I know this best for my kid. So I think it's the challenging is to how to parent in such a role when you're not a parent because you haven't had the opportunity yet. Um, and I don't have kids, so I think that's another deficit. I think parents might see that as a deficit in um, you know working with kids. I don't think that's a criteria to be a successful administrator or teacher, but I think that that's an implicit bias that we have in our community. Um, and for me, it's just that how do I reassure the parents that I still know what's best for kids without being um, a parent, right? I know the condition that would take to raise a successful, healthy, social, emotionally healthy, and academically healthy student. Um, I don't need to be a parent for that. But I think sometimes there's more credit given to administrators who have kids. Um, it's a shared experience that I don't have. And I think that um, that's just like one challenge that I'm reflecting now that I lack, but it's not because of my um, control. So I think eventually, I hope that parents will see that even when I become a parent, that my quality of care doesn't change. And that will make it even stronger that my mission is that I know what's best for kids without being a parent. So in the future, we'll see. I believe my support network in the school comes from how I carry myself. I think the big part of, um, getting people to support you is by just really believing in the big relationship aspect. I always tell teachers that yes, there's management before instruction, but before management, this relationship. And that's a big part that I try to build in my staff is that, you know, getting to know them, being responsive, being timely, being consistent, overly communicate things, making it very transparent. I think that's a very big challenge and a word that we throw very often in education. But I think with me still being away from the teaching force, we relatively new. This is my fifth year as an admin, so it's relatively new. So I still have that teacher, what a teacher need, what a teacher want, and what a teacher is expecting mindset. But also now viewing, from the district and school aspect as well. So I think a big part of mine is to really know what my team needs and being communicative of it. Um, and in return, I get that support, right? I think when you show someone that you care, you get that care in return. So I think a part of my network is to build that aspect of care, harness that, sustain that, um, and I think be truly being honest in that you're at the end of the day you're human. Yes, I own up to my mistakes, um, and I think that the human aspect in an admin improves the relationship aspect. I in terms of naming particular group, I don't think there's I think everyone here is supportive. I think we have a very wonderful team of educators here. In outside of my network, I rely on my families, my friends to kind of support me. But I think when you become an admin, you just develop this natural thick skin that you don't take anything personal because if it gets to you, then you don't see you know, the aspect of what is truly meaningful. So I try not to let that take things personal. So I know that my first year as admin, how we react as a first year admin versus now are two different set of priorities, right? I try to think global, but also trying to be able to see um, the ground level as well. But I hope that as I further become an admin, I don't lose that teacher mindset, which has been beneficial to working with teachers. I'm glad that such network is provided. I mean, I think that the national level is important. Whenever I attend these meetings as often as I can, I've learned that there are parts of the country that it doesn't have that liberal sense as I do in California, and I don't take that for granted. I mean, I think that should be a continuation of effort and work to make sure that um, your who you love and who you care for, what your labels are, should not matter on how well you can do the job. And I think that's unfortunate that some hearing from the stories of some of our members is that there's still that challenge that they can't be truly themselves. And that's upsetting for me to hear because if an admin can't be themselves, what about the students who are potentially going through this journey, right? So I always I think that this network provides that support for educators who are in communities that are not as open, not as accepting of um, this human spirit. I still don't have a challenge to understand why people think that this is a matter of choice. And to dictate who someone can fall, get together, fall in love with, or be with, right? It's that to me is just like still a very unknown aspect of me. And it's really for me, how do I sustain that in my community? It's just by being open, being caring, and this network does that, right? So hopefully I get to attend more meeting. I know that one of the challenge for me is that being on the West Coast, the timing is kind of challenging, but whenever I do have time, I find the meeting very helpful, whether it's just a validation of the good work that we're all doing, or just to, be with like-minded peers that are perhaps going through a certain struggle that we share. And it's just another layer of collegiality, but also a level of beyond that, just friendship wise as well, whether it's just a virtual network. So I do appreciate having this opportunity to join. And I have not participated in the book club yet, but I find that that's also very rewarding because the texts that you all select are very meaningful. I just perhaps now that I finished my doctorate, I can join. But yeah, I think that book club is also a wonderful opportunity to kind of like calibrate our understanding, our learning of new things. So hopefully in the future I can join a book club. A part of my journey the last few years in my doctorate journey is that I research on the power of community building in a classroom context. I study kind of the full inclusion model through a SPED lens with community building. And I've learned that social emotional learning is not, it's just a recommended, but not yet a required aspect of school. And I think that's a big part to improving the quality of social emotional for our kids. I hope that in the future we can get to the point where SEL is kind of a required part of the curriculum. Because I do think that, and especially post COVID, there's going to be new level of trauma challenges that we need to support our students. So I think indirectly it does support those students who are LGBTQ plus, who have not just the normal, I wouldn't say normal, the trauma they may experience, but also trauma related to their LGBTQ identity and getting to know who they are. So I hope that in the future uh, we can really look at how do we make social emotional learning as a part of the requirement in the curriculum, and also for schools to have counselors in the K8 setting. Us having a school counselor has been so much more impactful. And I think that that is another layer of support that schools can have in the future to support our LGBT youth.